There we are. Thank you so much. My name is Alan Williams, and I was a fellow last year with Code for America, and I currently serve as a product manager there. I spend my days designing and developing software and community organizing, which is sort of at the heart of what we do. Code for America is a nonprofit based in San Francisco, California. We're about 5 years old. Our funding comes from large institutions like the Knight Foundation, Google.org, and other people interested in transforming government in the United States and building civil society. Our vision is one that is native to the 21st century, is native to a lot of the things that we were just hearing about. It's a vision of governments that are sort of by the people and for the people in the American tradition, but very much part of the network era. I think what that means is that we see a lot of opportunity, both today and going forward, for cities to be profoundly more effective in meeting their policy goals, using technology, making them more just, more inclusive, more sustainable, more environmentally friendly, and more prosperous, more efficient and effective. And some of the ways that we're doing that today include introducing things like intelligent regulation, algorithmic regulation, taking advantage of cheap computation and cloud storage to do things like allocate children to the appropriate school in Boston. This is Discover BPS. This is a project by Joel Mahoney and some of the first year fellows at Code for America. And they are using geospatial analysis to find not just the shortest route, but also the safest route to school for children in Boston. This is Honolulu Answers. Some fellows in 2012 worked with the city of Honolulu, and they were able to convince the city government there to reach out and actually engage the citizens, not just for feedback about what their city website should look like, but rather to actually work collaboratively with citizens to use their expertise and their knowledge of their community to create the content for their city homepage and FAQ. And we also promote open and accessible data. Open data is a key part of Code for America's platform. We help cities and governments across the United States not just open their data and make valuable data available to third parties, but also to make it accessible reliably, so that there's actually the infrastructure in place for third-party developers to build useful applications. The best example of this is GTFS, the General Transit Feed Specification, pioneered by Portland, Oregon in about 2005, adopted by Google, and now published by over 700 cities around the world on a regular basis. It's what allows your transit times to be not just visible on the kiosk, but rather on your phone, any application. And there's a competitive market dynamic that the government then enables so that the best transit applications rise to the top. And we're doing that now with a coalition of parks and public land agencies in the United States so that they can produce trail map applications and park information applications to get more people into the park so they have more money to conduct their conservation efforts. And perhaps most importantly, we advocate and help governments learn about and execute user-centered design in all of their services. In San Francisco, we're working with the Human Services Agency to redesign enrollment in food assistance, as well as health insurance programs for low-income individuals. We are continually learning about the myriad different interests that are balanced when a government program is designed. When a service is designed that involves many different agencies, many different departments, it's easy for the end user, for the citizen's experience to get lost in the process. And so we're bringing a design tradition that comes from software and product design to these governments to help them focus on the user throughout the process and create an easier enrollment process, an easier experience, an improved experience for citizens. And of course, we're helping governments avoid IT disasters. We saw with healthcare.gov in the United States last year, with the NHS earlier in the decade in the UK, that procuring massive IT contracts for a documented project at the outset is not an effective way to build digital services. We try to teach governments that it is important to start small, it is important to iterate, it is important to learn as you go, and to be more open to a greater diversity of government contractors rather than just the big technology giants that have been a part of the ecosystem for such a long time. And this is really what we call the civic tech movement. This goes beyond Code for America. There are people all around the world talking about these sets of issues. There's people in this room that probably consider themselves part of the civic tech movement. And the movement involves people from a range of different institutions and backgrounds that don't normally work together. It includes citizens, it includes government staff, and it includes technologists. And it's worth unbundling each of those sort of categories a little bit. I'm talking about advocates, social organizations, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, very, very local organizations that care deeply about their community. And then I'm talking about people who are just interested in building technology that works and that helps people, things that are beautiful and simple and easy to use, engineers, designers, data scientists. And then I'm talking about people actually in the business of government, executives and legislators, but also service managers and department heads. Code for America's role is to organize the civic tech movement. We don't try and do everything ourselves. As we talked about, the world doesn't work like that anymore. We are organizing a diverse movement. And we're taking that leadership role because we think that civic tech doesn't work unless it works for everybody. We think that this is an opportunity to make the government that we have far more responsive to the needs of all of our citizens, including people that have been historically marginalized or left out of the process. And this really comes from a tradition of social movement organizing in the United States. We're not explicit about this. It's not part of our mantra, but we're influenced by the movement organizers that were involved in Barack Obama's campaign in 2008, and by extension, the movement organizers that informed that campaign, including Marshall Gantz, who's shown here on the right. And what do movement organizers like that do? What is that tradition? What have we learned from those past experiences? It's really an emphasis on relations. It's on relationships. It's an emphasis on social capital. And it's really three things. It's identifying and recruiting leadership. It's building communities around those leaders, and then really building political power out of that community. Because this change is not frictionless. There are invested interests that we have to negotiate with. There is no enemy, but we are working with people who need to come to understand the opportunity, and we have to build a community to do that. And the way that we do that is through 4 programs. We started with the fellowship program. I was a fellow last year. It is a sabbatical that engineers and designers and product managers take from their jobs at Google and Apple and other technology companies to do a year of public service, working embedded in a city hall. We work with government officials themselves, CIOs, department heads, etc., in the peer network, a community of learning that spans the country and the world for that matter. We have an accelerator for civic startups because we want to grow that ecosystem of service providers that governments can procure from so they have more choice. And we have brigades. This is what I'm going to talk a little bit more about. And brigades are the sort of civil society aspect of Code for America. The brigade is a 2-year-old program. There are over 80 brigades around the world. There are brigades in 10 countries, including here in Europe, in Germany, Poland, and Ireland. And there is an incredible diversity among these groups. Many of them are pre-existing nonprofit organizations or volunteer organizations that have realized their alignment with Code for America, and we have sort of joined forces. Others are new brigades that we've started as we've grown as an institution. each brigade works in a very local context and works to build those relationships with City Hall and with the government locally. And so we have this challenge. We have a challenge to coordinate and organize this movement. And it's a movement of very diverse people with very diverse sets of technical skills, very diverse levels of technical skills. And we had to think about how we could surface, track, and support this movement. And one of the things that we've done is we've built this website, the Code for America Brigade website, powered by an API. And so what this is, and here's Europe, by the way. There's all of the brigades in Europe across Germany and Poland. What the API does is it allows people, just by entering information from the tools they already use, meetup.com, Twitter, GitHub for code, for software development, to take those tools they already use and surface what they're doing locally, share their stories, share their projects, get assistance from other people, and ultimately grow the movement. And it's as simple as a Google spreadsheet. All you have to do is type in the name of your brigade, you type in the URL of your website, you type in the URL of your GitHub repository where you keep your code projects, you type in the URL of the meetup.com site where you announce your next meeting or your next hack night. And then the Code for America API creates an open feed of that data in a data standard that we call civic.json, which was actually a standard developed by one of our brigades originally. And then that data can be used anywhere across the web. It can be used by the Code for America Brigade website to show new visitors what's going on. It can be used by brigades themselves. It can be used by individuals to track particular things that they're interested in. It's an open API, and it's also an open source project. And I wanted to talk a little bit about one concrete thing we were doing to help grow this movement. And so you can check out the code base if you're interested. It can be found at github.com/codeforamerica/CF API. You can fork it. It's open source. All of our work is open source. I encourage you to visit the Code for America GitHub repository generally, as well as our website to learn more about all of the various projects that we're doing in all of the various sectors of government. And lastly, I just want to land on this idea that really what civic technology does is it builds trust. We're in an era when people have to collaborate across different sectors. We have people that are residents working with people that are in government, working with engineers in the private sector to deliver services. It's critical to build trust, and if you focus on trust as your metric, then you will be successful. Thank you very much.